Hello everyone and welcome to another workflow tutorial video. In this video, I'm going to talk about how did I do the shading of this Mecha Burger character that I created. I'm not going to go into much details on the overall shape process. If you are interested in seeing that with more detail, you can go to my previous video about the Tomb Raider. So let's start the video. Here in the top, you can see the middle steps I took to create this character. There's one missing, I don't know what happened, but oh, here it is, the sketch. Woo, yeah! I knew it was somewhere. I made that sketch on Photoshop, and then I started working on top of it. So as you can see, I corrected the size of the head or hamburger. Also, on my previous video, I said I tend not to work with colors at the beginning. In this case, I kind of did, but they weren't like the final colors. They were just a reference for me to remember what each object shape was or supposed to be. So at this point, we have a very simple shading. The lighting source is over here, and I wanted the lighting to be illuminating the front of my character, like in a more epic way. So after that, I started working with the more finished shading and also with colors. So for that, I have to show you this. Boom, the color reference layer. So I tried a couple of palettes, combining two. In the end, I didn't like those. Finally, I just created a 4 colors palette in which I had the kind of mustard yellowish color for all the yellowish components, a green one that is a kind of a lime green, a red one that is a little bit orange, and a blue one that is almost perfect blue. Okay, so once having those colors defined, each iteration of this Mecha Burger character used those colors. Oh, and a detail: if you compare these two versions of the Mecha Burger, there is one key difference besides the overall size of the hamburger, and it's the presence of these N&Ns instead of the branded original kind of candy. And I put this just to add more interesting points in this place, and I added this one. Whoa, I'm sorry, this one, the red one here, to do a more balanced kind of thing. And this also allowed me to add more color to the character, because the general color of the character is yellow. So if you see, this one is, everything is kind of yellowish, and any other color is kind of focused on this area. So with those candies, I could move that away and make it more balanced. So shading, let's talk about that. So the first thing was making the shadows more appealing and adding some highlights. The key thing here is that the color, if you see the hue of this red part, for instance, the hue is 10, but the highlight is a little bit more yellow, just 2 points yellowish. If you see the color of the cheddar cheese here is the hue is in 19, but if you check the highlight is over 42. Almost always, there are exceptions, but when I add highlights, I use a warmer color, okay? And when I do shadows, I do the opposite. So I have selected here the red part of this cup, and well, we know that is 10, the hue is set at 10, and the shadow is set at, well, 247. That's because the wheel goes all the way around, so it's closer to blue than to yellow in comparison to the original color. And the exact number, I don't have an equation, a formula to say, oh, it has to go this number of points closer to blue or closer to yellow. It has to do with perception. The same thing here with the blue. You can see that the blue part of the cap is at 162 and the shadow is at 171. So that's the first thing. Highlights are closer to yellow, shadows are closest to blue. That's not a set in stone rule. You can change that, but I usually work like that, making shadows colder, making highlights warmer. The next step was making the texture more appealing. So, well, I corrected the color of these onion ring shoulders, and what I did was adding a lot of shades that help simulating the texture. So since onion rings are crispy, in the shadow part there will be kind of points that get light, and in the illuminated part there will be shadows produced by other points, and also there will be some points getting or generating highlights. Also, as the onion ring moved towards the bottom part where it should be more shadowy, I make these kind of shadow shapes more frequent and the illuminated part of the shadow less frequent. Also, here is another detail with the shadow. Not only is colder, but also now I'm working with a gradient. And what did I do here was taking the original color and move it a little bit closer to blue than the original shadow. So the shadow is already closer to blue than the onion ring color, and this part that moves away from the light is closer to the blue color. So that gives it a more interesting, a more three-dimensional shadow. And I did it also here. Here the darker part. I'm going to talk about the darker part for this case, instead of saying always, oh, the colder part. Well, I could do that. So the colder and darker part is moving towards the onion ring, because this is the part where less light quantity should be arriving. And as you can see, I did it also here with the bun. This part become darker and blue, bluish, or closer to blue. Here we have this same thing. Also here with the cheese, I have a gradient where the darker and bluer part is on top. So by doing that, I'm starting to simulate a little bit the three-dimensional characteristic or illusion of this character, and also working a little bit in the realms of the occlusion, because I'm making the darkest part, the part that should have occlusion, colder. So in the case of legs, I did the same that I did with the onion rings, making illuminated parts in the shadow and shadowy parts in the illuminated part. And also the shadow had this gradient that I talk about. The pizza has the same effect with the gradient. And what else? Okay, Inkscape is sometimes doesn't update correctly the image, but everything's okay, I think so. On here's a small detail. The sesame seeds, I think that's how you call that. In Spanish is sésamo. Las semillas de sésamo. If you quickly look at them, they look kind of normal, but if you start checking one by one, you can see that the ones that are illuminated are very white in contrast of the other ones. I can put these two together. You can see that. Also, the shadow of the highlighted seeds have the same color than the van, while the other seats has a reddish shadow because it's a closer color to blue. And if you check the seats that are in the shadow, they don't have a shadow for themselves, and they are, well, darker and bluish. So you can see the work I did with the gradients in a lot of places here, also in the nugget feet. So here you can see that I start adding rim light. Okay, so why did I do that? So it could look more epic, like in a position in the end. You can see that's receiving the light here, but there's still illumination in the other part. It makes it three-dimensional, and it gives a more epic kind of feeling to this character. So I added that rim light, imagining a light source over here, just pure white. And at this step, I also started doing gradients for the colors. So before this part of the cup was red, just red, but now it also has a gradient. So the part of the object that is closer to the highlight or in the highlight zone looks warmer, but it's a little change of tint. It's not that much. If you see, it's just in this case it's just 4 points. Yeah, 4 points. And I did that with that color. Here also I added a gradient in this one also. Here in the chicken legs, you can check here, this part is yellowish and this one is become a little bit more red. Here in the nuggets also. So in the next step, this is the final kind of details I had to add. But I started working with the concept of ambient occlusion. You can check what it is, but the thing is making the parts that receive less ambient light darker. So you can see there is a small darker part here, or you can see that here with the gradient I'm simulating also that. Here you can see there is a small patch where it becomes darker because it's getting kind of hidden behind the onion ring. So little details like that. Here is a very notorious one. Since this is a corner that wouldn't be receiving that much ambient light, it would become darker. So yeah, I started doing things like that. Also with the nugget legs, I make the base part, like the closer to the floor, darker. That makes the overall lighting more interesting. So in the end, you can see the final product here. In the end, you can see that's a lot of little details like that I use to make the overall lighting. So that's the workflow for all the colors and shading. If you like this design, remember you can get it as shirts, notebooks, pillows, bathroom curtains, a lot of crazy things in my stores in both TeePublic and Threadless. And for people in Chile, you can do it also by going to my Creative Ideas store. Links are in the description below. And if you have any comment, suggestion, question, tip for me, for other viewers, please type it in the comment section. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this video with anyone you want. And I'll see you on the next video.